mad because it didn't go their way.
I'll call planning commission meeting to order at this time. At this time, we'll all stand pledge of allegiance. James, would you lead us, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time we have the roll call of
Roger Hagan asked to be excused. James Ursery.
Here.
Al Cowan.
Here.
Jim Ackerman.
Here.
David Morris asked to be excused. The school board has been temporarily filled by Mr. Joe Taylor, but he was unable to attend due to the school awards. John Gay.
Here.
David Wood.
Here.
Hank Hamilton.
Here.
Cliff Nauer asked to be excused, and planning secretary is present.
All right. I'd like to welcome you to the meeting. At this time, we have the approval of the agenda for May the 23rd, 2017.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. This time we'll have new business. Floor Arena Ratio. This
Okay.
is by David, right?
Yes, that's
Right.
correct. Last workshop, we talked about increasing the square footage of neighborhood commercial from 2,500 square feet to 5,000. I was asked to look into if floor area ratio would be a factor in that. So what I found was that in residential and agricultural districts, it's 0.5. So that means, say you have a half-acre lot, which that's about, it's a little over 20,000 square feet. So half ratio, that means you can have a structure of just over 10,000 square feet. So that ratio carries. So if you can picture, you know, if that would be sufficient room for parking, landscaping, stuff like that, I personally think it would be. But if anyone has any other thoughts on that, then feel free to bring it up. But I think that the current floor area ratio of 0.5 would be okay. If not, 0.75 is standard in other districts. So that would allow for more square footage on a parcel. But again, I think 0.5 is sufficient. So if you guys are okay with that,
0.5 would be what now, in square footage?
so like for a hypothetical parcel of 20,000 square feet,
Okay,
which is about half acre,
all right.
that would allow for 10,000 square feet of structure, so half.
Okay.
So where are we at now?
Right now, it's at 0.5. So I don't think it needs to change. I think it's fine. I think that we can just increase the square footage requirement from, or the maximum allowable square footage from 2,500 square feet in neighborhood commercial to 5,000 square feet. That'll allow businesses to, it won't restrict businesses as much in neighborhood commercial. And so I don't think that floor area ratio will be an issue in that regard. If it is, it can always be changed at a later date, but I think it's fine. So I just wanted to update you on that. And if you're okay with it, I'll move forward with changing the code to reflect a 5,000 square feet maximum square footage in neighborhood commercial.
Thank you.
What's the feeling of the board?
I've got a question. You said that in other areas, maybe that wasn't the term you used, but comparable areas, that the ratio is 0.75.
Yeah.
What's the drawback? What's the negative to being 0.75 as opposed to 0.5?
Right. Well, so that, I believe the 0.75 floor area ratio is in a mixed use district. So that's typically more of a, it's usually, it's a higher density. So it's multiple stories, maybe like 3, 4, 5-story development. And so that's, well, I guess, so one drawback would be you may have an issue with .75, you may have an issue having adequate parking on site. You could also have issues with.
I thought when you were going over that, you said the .5 was building, landscape, parking. Did you not say that?
Well, so I'm saying if,
He said .5 was the structure, and the remaining .5 would be to balance out, would be the.
I misunderstood.
The balance.
yeah,
It's two different things. The floor ratio is one thing, and the impervious area you get into in permitting.
it doesn't play into
Right.
the floor area ratio, but say you have a 15,000 square foot structure on a 20,000 square foot lot, you may not be able to fit a big enough parking lot now. And that could just be,
So we're saying that in a commercial application, the largest building they can build in Washington County is 5,000 square feet?
no. So if you're building on a half-acre lot,
Okay.
roughly, just for purposes of example, then based on the current floor area ratio for neighborhood commercial, then yes, if it's a 10,000 square foot lot, a 5,000 square foot structure is the largest you can currently, well, no, yeah, the largest you can currently build. No, I'm sorry. I'm confusing myself now.
Can you imagine how?
Well, straighten yourself.
With the floor area ratio being at .5 and the increase in square footage, allowable square footage to 5,000 square feet, that's what you'll be able to do. Currently, you wouldn't be able to do that unless it's either you'd have to get a variance or you'd have to go through some other process.
What is it now?
Special exception, right? Special exception.
2,500 now.
2,500 now.
Now we're gonna raise it up to 50.
We're gonna raise it to 5,000.
5,000.
And we're gonna,
We're talking about the building.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, so assuming that we do that, which I will do,
Assuming we'll do that one?
assuming that I will get that square footage, maximum allowable square footage to 5,000.
Okay.
Then yes, on a 10,000 square foot parcel, 5,000 square foot structure would be the biggest you could have. That's with that change.
Mark?
The original discussion about this related to agriculture, silviculture, where it's 2,500 square feet. And that's too small for the agriculture, silviculture. And then it's sort of evolved over to a discussion of neighborhood business. And those are two different things, really. But as long as you modify it, so whether it's silviculture, agriculture, or other appropriate land use, if it's the floor ratio, or 5,000 feet, whichever might be greater, then I think that does it.
Well, John was correct when he asked you, silviculture, agriculture, the biggest, largest commercial building you can build is 5,000 square foot, under what you're stating now, correct?
It depends on the parcel size.
Well, no, well, if they raise, no, it don't matter about the parcel size. Right now, under silviculture, agriculture, the largest commercial building, if we change it, right now it's 2,500.
Right.
If we change it to 5,000, no matter if you had 100 acres, it's still 5,000.
And that's where I got a problem
And I
with.
think that's what John was asking.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
You're right.
wrong, I think it's wrong.
I don't know, why do we limit it to 5,000 square feet if you've got 10 acres?
Yeah.
If I keep reading, the maximum floor area ratio shall be 0.5, but it contradicts itself, the comma before, where it says the maximum will be 2,500. Obviously, we're talking about changing it to 5.
Yep.
But if I got 10 acres, why am I limited to only 5,000 square feet? That doesn't,
Well, it's a question whether you want to force rezoning or land use change or not.
Right.
If you've got farmland and you want to keep it farmland, you just want to operate a business on it, that's different than jumping over to commercial land use.
Right.
And they specifically discussed the words neighborhood commercial 1 and neighborhood commercial 2 as part of the agriculture, silviculture, land use for that 2,500 square feet. So we were recommending that just for agriculture, silviculture, that it be changed to 5,000. That's different than commercial.
And I believe the complexion of the commission, that if you come for a variance and you want to change your property, land use change it from silviculture to agriculture to commercial, I don't believe that would be an issue. I mean, but they
I
just
just don't want to tie everybody's hands.
Yeah. I think you just protect yourself now to keep what the town saying, that you don't have people just skipping y'all and doing.
Well, if you have a guy that comes and asks for a variance or, you know, a greater floor area ratio, is he gonna have to wait a month before, like, say he wants to come in tomorrow, well, now he's gotta wait another month before we can approve, that variance?
Well, you have to start a land use change to get a 5,000 or 5,001 square foot building. He'll have to go through the land use change. He'll come back for them because it's not permissible in silviculture, agriculture. For commercial, now don't get confused with that. He's just talking about for commercial use. They're not talking about for a pole barn or, you know, or anything like that. That's just strictly commercial use. And I had to read this 8 or 10 times to get my head kind of which way it was going.
It's,
Yeah.
lots of aspects to it.
Is the board clear on it? You?
Mike Mudd.
Mike Mudd?
I don't believe we have any commercial.
My opinion is we need to go up from 2,500. That ain't enough to turn around in. Now, if the people that are smarter than me are telling me that this is just silviculture or whatever, and if we go somewhere else, we can build whatever we want to build, I'm good with that. But I don't want to limit it to that in Washington County, you can't build a 5,000 square foot building. That ain't much of a building.
No, it's giving you a little bit more, it's being a little bit more lenient with people, and it's allowing them to avoid a land use change to a certain point. And I think it's a step in the right direction.
That's what's definitely in the right direction.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, I'll keep updating you on this as it progresses.
Do we have to take a,
Why do you have to?
No. No, this is just, these are just updates.
okay, all right.
Right now.
You could build a shopping center.
Oh,
Well,
Going
they're
through
not
the
gonna build a
process.
shopping center, they don't have a customer parking.
But if they want to build a shopping center, it should be
All right,
commercial.
we want to go down to the,
That's exactly what they should do.
That's why.
gentlemen, knock it off. All right, let's go to the airstrip.
Okay. Technically, I guess it's airport, but you get the idea. So this is just an update, but there've been changes to a Florida statute that require local governments to implement airport zoning at a local level. So basically, the chapter of the statutes that changed has to do with obstructions to airspace. So basically, if you can envision a runway, there are certain setbacks and runway distances and flight paths and all that. And the state is just wanting municipalities with either airports, or they call them airport hazard zones, which is basically a flight path, an incoming flight path or a takeoff path, to implement these. And we have one. If you look at the future land use map, it's like an overlay. I think it's called an airport, I forget what it's called.
Airport compatibility zone?
Yeah, airport compatibility zone, so that's basically what it is. So that's why this is we're subject to this. And I'm a ways off from having an actual ordinance or anything ready, but that's going to be something that we have to do. So at some point in the next probably month or two, you'll see something. And also, just for the record, any proposed airport, whether it be public or private, is required to basically notify the State Department of Transportation and the FAA. And we also may I'm also discussing this with the county attorney about whether or not it makes sense to adopt state standards at a local level. So if that's the case and there's an airport going up, then that's what would have to happen, is they would need to, it would just be on record at a local level that that's what has to happen. So that's just, anyway, I wanted to update you because I'm working on this with the county attorney. And again, probably the next month you'll see something about this.
What about the airport on 77?
So their old ones are grandfathered in unless there's a change to, say there's a obstruction in the flight path of that airport, unless that's going to be changed, they're grandfathered. Yeah.
We don't have anything right now in the books that restricts someone from just coming in and putting up their own airstrip, private airstrip.
The only thing they have, so there's a special exception process, and through that, they have to fill out an application. If they're going to be building a structure, they have to turn in a development review application and have a development review meeting. With the special exception, you have to hold a neighborhood information meeting with property owners within 300 feet of your property, and then go to 2 public hearings. This planning commission meeting and board of county commissioners. So that's what we have at the local level now, but there's nothing very specific that talks about really anything. You can have one in different land use districts if you want. That's just what you have to do. So this is something I'm going to look at, and I can continue updating you on. But again, it's just something that we have to do because the state is saying so.
So if we have somebody wanting to come in and build a private airstrip right now, there's nothing we can do to shut them down, other than they have to go through the state. The state would be the one to shut them down.
Well, they would still have to go through our processes. They would have to submit an application and go through the notification and public hearing processes. And if it was applicable, they would have to go through a development review process too. So there is that in place, and we'll take a look at if there needs to be more beyond the
scope of work, yeah.
Right, correct.
Wouldn't it make sense, like you said, just to adopt what the state's already done and not spin our wheels on this?
I think so, yes. So I'm going to be looking into that. So I just wanted to update on that.
All right, any questions from the,
I would just, when you're entertaining this, the only thing that, from my seat as a county administrator, I would want you to be very, very mindful of is the people, the existing crop dusters and the guys that are, the airport on 77 South, because these guys have.
Those are already been passed by the state. They are officially
Because I don't
real
want, if
airports.
someone runs a business, running crop dusters or whatever,
Crop.
Tri-County or something, I just don't want to screw those guys up, you know what I mean?
Is that
Yeah.
considered an airstrip?
Yeah, if you're landing an airplane on it, it is, yeah.
Oh, come on.
Crop dusters.
Lands his over there, Parkside Road all the time. I know good and well, there ain't no airstrip there.
It's,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, just think about that when you're.
He's actually listed. He is actually recognized by the state of having an airstrip.
Really?
Yes. There's one on Orange Hill, the one down at Greenhead. Mr. Hartzog's one of them.
I agree with you. Do you know whether or not this, or what the state has, would have a bearing on an existing business such as a crop duster or?
It doesn't regulate.
Ma'am,
Crop dusters are exempt from it.
there you go.
Through FAA, they don't have to follow any of it.
Apparently, the way they fly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good to know.
all right, very good. Any other questions on this article? All right,
I want this thing.
next one is cemetery subdivision review.
Okay, yep. So since being here, it's not been that long, I've already gotten 2 people that have called the office and requested information about having one procedure for how this is regulated, and that is in your packet. But basically, it's a pretty intense, very intensive process. We require them to plat, which means they have to go through a really in-depth surveying process. And these are typically for $3,000 to $5,000, these cost plats. It also takes a really long time for these to be approved by the applicable boards. On top of that, they have to go through a special exception, so they have to notify their adjoining property owners, and they have to go through 2 additional public hearings, planning and Board of County Commissioners. So I think that if you are intending to sell cemetery plots, then maybe that's appropriate. But I think that there's a big difference between that and a family burial site. So this is another thing I'm working with the attorney on. We already kind of spoke about this a little bit, but I think maybe there should be 2 different ways. So for a family burial, something like maybe 10 plots or less, just to throw that out there. Maybe a minimum acreage requirement, a restrictive deed, so the land can't be sold.
That's already in place, isn't it?
Well, that's why we make a plat, so it's recorded, it has to be recorded.
And that can't ever be sold. That's what I was told.
Yeah, I think you're right,
We
But,
already have one.
pardon?
We just did one a few months ago.
A cemetery?
Mm-hmm. Riskin East did one.
I don't know, maybe it was before
We
my
hadn't done
time.
one in 15 months.
Okay, well,
10 years.
No, he just did it about a year ago here.
Came through us?
Yeah, sure did.
I don't remember.
I don't either.
Yeah, he sure did.
That's the meeting you missed, Gary.
You got 3 people shaking their heads no and 1 saying yes, and that's you.
Go back and take a look. Go back and take a look. I could probably dig it up for you.
Oh, pun intended.
But he did do it.
I haven't gone through a cemetery since I've been here. That's 4 years.
Okay, let me dig it out.
all right, well, yeah, if you have any thoughts, it's still, again, this is still kind of in the beginning stages, but I did have a gentleman that, wasn't able to do it. It was too time consuming and expensive, so I just think it would be something, it would just probably just make people's lives a little easier. If they have 40 acres, it's kind of like, as long as they're gonna record their restricted deed and they have an easement and other things are met, I think they should be able to do that.
That's the way that has been.
Well,
This will be without
This-
requiring them to plat?
right now, if anyone calls our office and requests to bury anyone, well, even if it's one person, they have to do a plat and they have to go through a special exception, and it's very time consuming and difficult. So I'm proposing that unless an individual is opening a cemetery and selling plots, they should not have to do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
I agree.
You're saying we need to get rid of that? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying
If
for-
I'm gonna bury my uncle or something, I don't even have one anymore, but if I'm gonna bury a family member on my property, are you saying we're gonna do away with the restrictions you're talking about?
Just to make it less difficult. There still will be processes you need to go through, but it will be less intensive, so you
For
know.
family.
Will there be a
Right.
setback or something?
Yeah, like setbacks, and maybe I was thinking like, we can continue to discuss it, but like a general development review. So like an internal review, so the engineer can make sure what he needs to make sure of, I can make sure what I need to make sure of, but not have a regimented, set required development review meeting or anyway.
Does the state levy any requirements on the counties for that?
I'd have to,
Because I mean, if we say,
yeah.
we can be more restrictive, but we can't be more lenient. Is that, with
The
states?
health department probably does with
Yeah.
dual
And
containment.
and what happens if the property stood back in tax deeds, and what kind of liability does that have for the county?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You own the cemetery.
I know, and trust me, we got enough issues right now with the county, let's don't put no more on us.
Gotta have easement.
Yeah.
Well, on the one hand, I gotta tell you, on the one hand, I always want to be buried on my property.
Oh, yeah,
But the problem with that is that I couldn't keep 6 close friends. So I decided to be cremated. I could be scattered on my property. I don't need y'all's permission for that. But I can see, in all seriousness, I can see, especially in a rural area like Washington County,
Hey, listen,
I can understand some of this land, we've owned for generations. And I can understand people wanting to be buried on it. And I can understand making it, and I would be making it far less restrictive. But things come to mind like get you a corner and plat that corner out and let that be your family plot. And then if the county ever took it back, or if you ever sold it, you're not worried about easements, you're not worried about all this BS. You've got your little family plot over here in the corner of your property. And
That remains the same.
sir,
And that remains the same.
the same as what?
Gotta have an
It
easement.
has to be locked down.
Yeah, I mean, you still got to apply it.
Right.
But what he's trying to do is make it less cumbersome on the person.
Right.
And I think simplifying it, specifying where it can be on a property, pick a corner, whatever. I think we could work through that and make it like you want it, where it could be pretty easy and user-friendly is not the right word, but friendly to the family.
I think you're going in the right direction with it
Okay. Yeah, it's still early on that, but once I have a little more time to create, bring it back.
All right, any other questions on that issue? All right, minor major development review.
Yeah. So, what is this? There's another county, it's St. Johns County, this is where, so St. Augustine is in St. Johns County. Also the city of Destin. So the way they handle development reviews is different than us, so for example, Chipola Timber, when they came and we did the presentation, and the planning commission had to approve their development proposal. St. Johns County and the city of Destin, and I know there's others, I don't know exactly what they are, but they don't require development reviews to be approved by the planning commission. As long as the proposal is in compliance with the code, so they're not asking for a variance, there's no land use change, there's no special exception. As long as it's in line with the code, then it goes through planning, and then the way that St. Johns County does it is the county administrator approves it. And the only reason I bring this up is because, to implement it, you would need to amend the code, so that you'd have to, go through that process of noticing and all that. But it would just make it easier. It would just be one less step for people who want to develop, So I just thought I'd bring it up. If you have any thoughts,
What would that be to our advantage?
Well, so, yeah, there's pros and cons, I think.
Well, my point would be that if he's not asking for anything, hey, I'm in line with the code. You guys are going to approve it anyway because my requirements are A, B, C, D, and E, and I've done A, B, C, D, and E. Now I've got to wait again another month before I can start my business because I've got to wait on the planning commission date, and then that's got to line up with the board of commissioners date and all that stuff. Well, there's nothing to discuss. That they've already paid their fees, they've already submitted their plans, the engineering work's done. I mean, why bother? Is my opinion.
Well, my thing is that that we send out, you send out cards to the neighbors, and maybe I don't want that subdivision in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Nobody would even know it if you didn't bring it before us here and be publicized. I mean, so that, and then that gives that neighborhood a chance to come up here. And
Statutorily, they still, you still got to, you can't skip that step. They're just talking about if it lines up straight with the.
There's different things. This is just there's a lot of different things you could do. So for example, like right now, there's a minor development and a major development. So minor development is a non-residential development under, I think it's, under 10,000 square feet. Major is over. So you could say minor developments don't need to be approved by the planning commission. Major developments, which would include a subdivision, or a major subdivision, which is, a larger subdivision, would still need to be approved. So there are different things you could do, but just a different way to think about it. These other counties have done it, and it seems to be working for them. So.
We never just say if Hank gave the okay, then that's it, or does it go from him then to the county commission still, or?
No, right now, development reviews, you guys have the final, you take the final action.
Right.
Unless it's in a municipality,
Right.
you take final action.
And Hank, you're saying that, and I think I agree with you if I understood what you said. You got A, B, C, D, and E. He's met A, B, C, D, and E to the T. What are we gonna do other than say, yeah?
Right. Now, and then I would shoulder the responsibility of saying, oh, you've done A, B, C, and D, you haven't done E, so you need to meet the planning commission and get their concurrence on it.
So you still have the option to put it back on us if you're not comfortable.
You could write it that way as well, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
In other places, it's called development by right, if you have met all the published requirements, and that requires that you may have to define some uses a little differently. But what I wanted to suggest is, a lot of places, Leon County as an example, under that same process, handles this within the family subdivision of, giving the cousin a lot and so forth. They have a published standard for that, and if you meet that, then it's done by right. You don't have to come in and say, well, we're giving cousin Joe 5 acres. If you meet what's published, it's development by right.
It's not a bad idea.
So I'd throw that in the basket.
Now, right now, the only time we have to send something to the neighbors is if they're asking for a variance or a land use change or something that's not cut and dry and meets all of the requirements of the rules. And that's not going to change, but I agree. If everything's fine, there's really no reason not to just proceed with it.
Well, I hate giving up control, but I also hate rubber stamping. I'm a contractor. I've been on the other side of that, where everything's met, and you got to dance to 3 tunes of music, knowing what the answer is going to be. And I agree. It doesn't.
But
Doesn't make any sense.
just me, the way I would operate, and hopefully my successor, 5, 10 years, however long I'm here, would also consult the planning commission and the board and say, hey, this is what's going on, and blah, blah, blah.
No, but I think we need to write something in there, because not all county administrators are like you, and some of them want to just be total control, and more so than they should be, let's say that.
I tell you, we definitely need to go before the planner, if not the commission, before the planner.
Oh, definitely.
Well, we talked about that this afternoon as well. Yeah, it would not be, bring all your stuff to me, I'll approve it.
One man show.
Yeah, no, it would definitely have, the language would be written that, that in consultation with the planning department, the senior planner, and the county administrator, that position would actually just have the approval authority. So, but the whole package would be the planning department
And the other control is that the minor projects go through this process. Anything over a certain size then has to come back.
Right.
There is no development by right, say if your building's going to be 10,000 square feet or more.
Right.
need to draw a line where it isn't automatic.
Right, right.
Any other comment?
This is what you're looking for, David, comments?
Yeah, at this point, I'm just
Feedback.
trying to let you guys know what's going on, so.
All right. Transmission tower, minimum distance requirements. Has there been an issue with this?
Yeah, I think there was I think it was a little bit of a dispute between two tower companies, or companies that kind of like handle the construction of towers. I don't remember the specifics, but there was,
Well, the specifics were they were in close proximity. One had already had vendors saying that they were going to take space on the tower, and the other tower company just said, "Hey, we want to build one, and we will then solicit business." I think that was part of it.
Yeah.
And the proximity of the two towers was.
Like a mile and a half?
I don't even know if it's that far, was it?
But the problem was the person that had the development order was the one soliciting
Right.
contractors or soliciting customers, subscribers still. The other company had people ready to go. They were building a tower more adequate to the needs of the area. And so
Right,
we
yeah.
got to thinking that if we take fair competition out of it, you know as well as I do, they're not gonna build more than they need. You know, they're not free.
Right.
so I guess on that note, well, Washington County is one of the few, I don't want to say it's the only county in Florida, but it's one of the few, most counties have at least a tower-to-tower setback requirement. I think the reason for that is, one, I think a lot of counties in Florida are a lot more urban and developed, so it can be seen as a nuisance. So that's probably maybe not as applicable to Washington County. But also, it would limit disputes probably such as the one that occurred before. I did mention this at the BOCC workshop, and they asked me to come back with recommendations. So that one I think would be, well, I need to do a little more research on that. But what I would like to get, I would like to get some comments from you and maybe a recommendation. Can we have a forum? Do I need that for this?
You would have to close the workshop and.
Yeah, I won't do that. I'll just get comments, but,
Are you talking about distance? Are you talking about between the towers?
yeah, correct.
In other words, one's on this side of the road and one's over that side of the road.
Right,
So we
right,
kind of did something like that with signs one time.
right,
Couldn't put the signs too close together.
right.
That's
How
when they come
long
through here with the
was the
building.
development order granted for the first tower who didn't actually develop?
Right.
I think it was a 90-day
So you had 90 days to get going?
to get, I think,
It's 90 days, yeah.
I think they had 90 days to get a
Building
a
permit?
lease, on the tower.
They didn't get it.
And they did not get it. And the one that did apply already had somebody ready to go.
So the first one then died?
Yes, that it's expired. The development order has expired, yes.
Yeah, that's an important step for these speculative things.
Well, and that's to me, that is the nut in the shell right there. The 90-day development order, if they haven't got anything by that time, it dies, and then the fair market comes back into play. Like I said, they're not gonna just build them and speculate. What was happening is some of the companies required more tower height. And I think the first development order was for a shorter tower, am I correct about that?
Yes.
Sounds right.
Yeah, and the people that was wanting to subscribe, it wouldn't work for them. So I hate for us to put something into effect that it ultimately wouldn't work, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so that's what happened there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But you don't have
Do you know
to,
what other counties have as far as setbacks?
Yeah, there's actually, if you look in your packet, I don't have the supplemental documents with the right page numbers, but, so it's
Separation.
Page 3?
yeah, there's like a little matrix, and it says separation distances between tower types. And this matrix, I've actually seen in 2 different counties' codes, so I'm pretty sure people just copy and paste this. I'd like to know the intent behind it a little more first, but this is pretty standard right here. That's what most counties do.
And you're gonna do some more research on that?
I am, yeah.
After this,
Yeah, one thing I would like your comments on though is, pretty much every other county I've seen has explicit requirements in the code about what they need in their application. So for example, it says in the code, like, application will include letter from the FCC, letter from the FAA, a copy of the lease agreement or whatever. And that's foul zones, so like a foul zone on a tower is depicted on the site plan. And I ask for all that stuff now at the development review meeting, but I think it would just be better to have it just all right there, so there's no questions. And if someone after me or down the road, people aren't aware that's what you need to ask for, then it's not being asked for. So I just would like to know your thoughts on having that.
It's gotta be, something you have to tell them what they gotta turn in.
You can't just.
Well, it's, there's nothing in the code that says you have to have a letter from the FAA. You have to have fall zones on,
Well, that's just wrong.
right, so you're for that then?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be left up, in no disrespect to you, but it shouldn't be left up to you to try to remember, we need this, we need that, we need that.
Right, and
I mean, nobody goes in to get a permit for anything that there's not a sheet that you check off.
Right.
This is what you gotta supply. I mean,
Well,
that's just.
there is an application, but it's, well, yeah, I've had to look at some of the past documents from previous planners and what they requested. And so I think it'd just be better for maintaining precedent too, moving forward.
so would it suffice to change the application until we get the ordinance in place?
Yeah, that would suffice, definitely, yeah, I'll do that.
You have requests for more towers now?
We have 3 now and 1 more on its way, so we got 4 total from the same company.
I would be frustrated as a tower developer if I came in and nobody could give me a written list, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, of what I needed to turn in.
Talking
I
about
mean,
like a checkoff list.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not,
Which you must comply with.
that's not the 21st century.
You're just leaving it open if you don't.
Yeah, and somebody's subject to forget something and then you delay them, and, you know, that's what we're all about, is trying not to delay progress. And
Right.
so, yeah, you need to make your checklist. You haven't already done that?
No, I did. I did. Okay, well, maybe I'll come back with something a little more official on that too then.
All right.
Okay.
So now we'll go to lot and parcel of records.
Yeah, this was on the identified hot topic areas, so I partly just want to know a little more history on this. Based on notes that were in this booklet, this is what's written down. It says, currently the definition of a lot of record applies only to properties contained within a subdivision. However, this exemption has been applied to allow for parcels created prior to the adoption of LDC and comp plan to qualify. Therefore, staff recommends clarifying the definition and application of the lot of record exemption. So I'm pretty sure that so this is why something that makes it make a little more sense. So you're exempt from a final development order if you're constructing a single-family dwelling on a lot of record, so that, but I guess what I'm getting is that it's kind of unclear, the definition is unclear, and I don't know, have you ever discussed this before with any other planners, or does anybody?
What's unclear? The record, lot of record?
Well, what I'm getting from what was talked about before is,
Put on priority list.
what's that?
Put that on the priority list.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that it's been applied in a lot of different ways and it needs to be defined more clearly. I guess I'm just asking if you've discussed this before, because
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think we have.
Okay.
But a lot of record, I always thought was like, there's a lot of plots around here, around these lakes and things, it's got lots all plotted in there. And,
But you can't identify it.
you know, I mean, they're on a plot, but.
On the plot, but you can't find it.
The other problem is if somebody builds a nice house on a 40-acre lot and doesn't subdivide it, what's the lot of record? Is it the 40 acres? I would think he would appeal to the property appraiser and redefine where the house is.
But will you do that now?
Yeah, you could do that now.
Yeah.
I'm saying, if you don't define a lot of record on large tracts, it's what we've got now. There is no definition.
Yeah, we did that. I mean, I've done that, so I know that that's done.
Right. Normally it's caused because it's a tax bill.
They put them together.
Yeah.
They put them together so they only have one tax bill.
No. No.
Or separate them out so
Just
they can
like
have two.
mine. Because the house was on 34 acres, I was getting charged an outrageous amount of money for property taxes. Property appraiser, because I had horses actually in the barn at the house and all around the house, he said this could be considered agriculture. It's just the area right here that we need, and we, I think he measured it out. I mean, I don't think there's anything legal, necessarily legal about it, other than he measured out a 200 by 300 area, and that's what was assessed as my homestead, and everything else was an ag of the 34 acres.
Right.
But that's done now. Just in case you didn't know.
No, I knew that, but our land development code doesn't say what's a lot of record.
Doesn't say what?
The definition of a lot of record. The property appraiser laid it out for tax purposes, but it's not necessarily the lot of record that has a deed.
Okay.
So I should talk to the property appraiser? Maybe?
You might ask him how many of them he's done.
Yeah.
Don't mention my name. You get a job.
No, but I did the same thing. I bought the property. A 2 years after I bought it, I built a house.
Exactly.
And my house is not with the total property.
Right.
It's only that certain area that they just zoned off and said this.
Yeah.
So is the tax is cheaper that way?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot cheaper.
I mean, I was paying, they assess it on the acreage. I had, my house is actually on a piece of land, it's 34 acres. And we have 250, but we had 34 that was the house was on. And we were paying, I'll throw a figure out there, $6,000 or $7,000 in taxes a year. And the tax appraiser came out 2 or 3 years ago and says, you don't need to be paying taxes on this whole 34 acres. That can be agriculture. You have horses and cows and chickens and goats and everything else on it. So I don't know how he did it, but he, in his mind, marked out an area, and my tax bill was cut in about half.
Most property things that have come before us is people that had 2 or 3 lots, and then they want to do a homestead it.
Right,
So they homestead those 3 lots,
right.
and to make it more economical with the taxes.
Or David, or what y'all trying to get to is a certain amount, a certain size of a lot of record to fall into the comp plan? Is that what, to 4.5 acres? Is that where this is?
Honestly, that's what, I wanted some, I don't know.
I
wanted
don't
some-
either, I'm just trying to figure out what we.
I don't know where we're going.
with it.
I'm kinda lost.
I was hoping there was maybe a historical discussion on it, because I don't know why it's identified.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to figure out, you
Didn't
know.
it go from 10 acres to 4.5 acres?
Yes. Yes.
And that's where it's coming from.
So we're trying to get the 4.5 acres for the platted lot, or the designated lot, is that where we're, so, for instance, let's just use Mr. Gay for example, instead of whatever the property appraiser wheeled off, whether it be an acre,
I don't even know what it-
close to an acre, or 2 acres, whatever it may be, it, therefore, it changed to the 4.5 acres, and the other 29.5, or 29.5 acres would be ag, and the
Right.
4.5 would be part of
That's where
the
mine is.
record plat, is that?
That's what he did. I don't know how many
Exactly.
acres, I don't know what the ratio was.
Well, I was just trying to figure out, this first I've heard of it, and I was just trying to figure out where we was
Mine's
going.
pasture land.
What was we gonna accomplish?
Yeah, again, I was just trying to get an idea too, and
Okay.
I guess I still don't really.
I don't, yeah. So I understand now, I understand, that if that's the concept you're trying to get to, where you have conforming lots, because right now, ultimately, Mr. Gay's property could be perceived as non-conforming lot because his platted, no, it is, I don't know, Lord mercy, y'all got that, right there.
Don't leave me alone.
Well, the 4.5 acre thing used to be because you couldn't just take out 1 acre and throw out there and
Yeah.
build your own little subdivision.
Yeah.
So you had to have at least 4.5 acres,
But-
then you could build on it, you had to be 100 feet across.
The deed still would be conforming,
Yes.
but the property appraiser's plat would be non-conforming. Is that correct, Mr. Town?
Yes, I think so.
I think that'd be correct. I think that's the best way. Mr. Ursher, what do you think about that? Is that what you'd say with it?
I know what he's saying there, and I know what you're trying to say. You're saying if he's only got like 200 whatever, then he's non-conforming,
But it's not, but he is, because he is.
because he's on 34 acres
That's
or
right.
whatever. He really is, you know.
Let me ask you this way, what difference does it make?
I don't know. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
why are we beating a dog that may not have done nothing wrong?
That's what I'm trying to find out why.
It's all a tax thing, isn't it? The whole
Yeah,
thing
it's all taxes
all
to
money.
me, I mean,
Right.
Yeah. I was just trying to get my head right.
and it wasn't even my idea, it was a property appraiser's idea, I didn't know you could do it.
Yeah, ignorance of the law, no excuse for law, okay.
Why we hired you?
That's what they told me when I told them I didn't know it was 75. I thought it was 75 that you the other day, and they told me that. They said ignorance of the law, no excuse for the law.
David, you might talk to Gil. He
About
must
me,
have
though.
some authority to line these things out and skip the planning commission and the land development code.
Right.
Yeah, David, did somebody bring this to you as an issue, or was it?
No.
It was something that was identified previously by the previous person that was in his position.
there is.
It was something that
Y'all got,
that person,
Something confusing from that person?
y'all got way bigger
possibly, it was
fish.
something that that
believe
person
there's a
felt
property
that
appraiser.
wasn't in
That's unheard
accordance.
of.
You're gonna see a red line around my house.
Yeah. You got-
There's a-
You're gonna see a red line around my 34 acres, but you ain't gonna see no red line around my house.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you, I don't know where we're going with the non-conforming stuff.
Yeah, in Washington County, you got way bigger fish fry than that the other day.
Yeah, I thought so. It was just, there's a list.
It was a great idea, David, anything else?
It's
call.
just
Good
saying
call,
that
Mr. Gabb.
the definition wasn't clear enough and she was looking for guidance on the clarity of it and.
All right, well, that one, I guess we'll let it rest.
Yeah.
There you go.
Alrighty.
You should have
that
started
all
the
you have, David?
conversation with that.
That's all I have. Yeah.
I'll let
You
him
want to go back
ask.
to the cemetery?
Yeah,
You can go back
Does
to,
it-
why do you wanna go back there?
okay.
All right, go ahead. Back, ask
I
questions.
don't want to open up a can of worms, okay? And it didn't come before us, okay? But it was in the Washington County News, that's where it was. Okay, and I don't want to tell the, I'm going to go back and look in the Washington County News, because it was advertised. About a cemetery on his property.
Could it be through the city of Chipley instead of us?
No, he's in the county.
And he's selling lots.
No, it's for his own family.
Do you remember the name?
Yeah, I know the name, we know it. It's a friend of mine.
We're gonna be through here in a minute.
What's his name?
But I will find it, but would he have to come, for doing that, did he do it illegally? Because he said in there, he had everything on approval.
Has he already buried her?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't buried anybody.
Well, he ain't done nothing illegal, is he?
Well, he's asked for a plot of land to make a cemetery. Okay?
We do have people who are buried on their own property in Washington County, I know that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I guess,
But just to
And
prove the
nobody
point,
knows.
And I think that's their
it's
business.
probably a year ago that it's happened, but I'll.
There's some
back
old
look
ones
at
out
the
there.
paper and tell you.
It's pretty
You
big
know,
on
when
it.
they find
Yeah.
the seventy.
On the southern of the county.
That's
There's
fine.
supposedly a cemetery out there between.
Just put cemetery.
I mean, everybody in New Hope seems to
That's
know this.
historical, but that's been happening for 2 centuries here.
Corey Dyson's old property.
I think they're wider than 79, they can't do that.
All right.
And I agree with you,
Any-
it's their business.
How about old business? Do you have any old business?
no, sir.
We discussed it. County administrator, do you
No,
have
sir.
anything to say?
No, sir.
County engineer, he says nothing.
He's in a mess in Freeport right this minute.
All right. At this time, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Making a motion to adjourn.
I'm sorry.
Second, all in favor?
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you for coming out, appreciate you.
There's actually, including you guys, 7 private airstrips recognized.
I mean,
Yeah, that would be my only concern is.
But they're covered under some, there's special exemptions for them. Yeah, that was. There's 7 private recognized by DOT. Y'all even have one, the helipad at the hospital, owned by Washington County Commissioners.
All right.
And then the one at Greenhead would be it.
So list of all of
What about your house? Would that be